I'm Pawan Thakur. While the events of 1962 are often analyzed through the bravery of soldiers on the front lines, the collapse actually began at the top. This is a study of the failure in the higher direction of war, or Yudh ka Uch Stadiya Sanchalan, the process where political policy and military readiness must align to protect a nation. In 1950, India's northern frontier was defined by geography. Tibet sat here as a massive independent buffer zone, ensuring that the two most populous nations on Earth, India and China, remained separated by thousands of miles of high-altitude plateau. That geographic safety net vanished when the Chinese army annexed Tibet. Suddenly, the buffer was gone, and India found itself sharing a live, contested border with an expanding military power for the first time in centuries. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru managed this shift through a policy of diplomatic goodwill. He focused on the Panchsheel, 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, and the popular sentiment of Hindi Chini bye-bye. The administration prioritized these diplomatic ties over the immediate fortification of the new northern border. Internal warnings from ground-level realists were frequent. Shortly before his death in 1950, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel sent a prophetic letter to Nehru, stating that China's actions in Tibet revealed the intentions of a potential enemy. He urged the government to recognize the vulnerability of the northeast frontier. By treating diplomatic hope as a substitute for military defense, the political leadership created a mismatch between India's foreign policy goals and its actual strength on the ground. By the late 1950s, the limits of that diplomacy became clear. India discovered that China had secretly built a major military road through the Aksai-Chin region, territory India claimed as its own. In response, the government adopted the forward policy. This strategy involved establishing dozens of small military outposts in disputed areas to physically stake a claim. However, these outposts were often under-equipped and placed in locations that were nearly impossible to supply or defend. Defense Minister Krishna Menon was a primary driver of this strategy. Under his leadership, the political high command began making tactical decisions in an environment detached from the advice of military commanders who understood the logistical limitations of the terrain. The administration believed that small-scale posturing could deter a superior force. They proceeded under the assumption that political signaling was enough to hold territory, even without combat readiness. The situation reached a breaking point in September 1962, as Chinese forces began massing in significant numbers near the Thogla Ridge. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the High Command in New Delhi issued a formal directive to the army: evict the Chinese. The man tasked with executing this order was Brigadier J.P. Dalvi, commander of the 7th Infantry Brigade. Dalvi sent a series of urgent logistical reports back to the capital. He stated clearly that his men lacked winter clothing, had no heavy artillery support, and were facing a force that could easily overrun them. Political pressure and public expectations overrode these military concerns. The 7th Brigade was forced to hold an indefensible position, effectively becoming a sacrifice for a policy that had no plan for actual combat. On the morning of October 20, 1962, the logistical warnings of the previous weeks became a tactical reality in the Namkachu Valley. A massive Chinese artillery barrage tore through the Indian positions, followed by a large-scale infantry assault. The thinly spread Indian lines were immediately overwhelmed. Within 3 hours, the 7th Brigade was decimated. Brigadier Dalvi and his remaining men were taken prisoner as the defense of the sector collapsed. Chinese forces advanced deep into the Northeast Frontier Agency against almost no resistance. 1 month later, having demonstrated the total failure of India's border strategy, China declared a unilateral ceasefire and withdrew. The national shock was profound. India's president, Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, offered the most pointed critique of the leadership, stating, "We have been credulous and negligent." Understanding 1962 requires looking past the casualty counts to examine the institutional culture of the time. The defeat was not a result of a lack of courage. The Indian Jawans fought with exceptional tenacity, often to the last man, despite being abandoned by their own logistics and a command structure that had failed them long before the first shot was fired. The events at Nam Kachau demonstrate that the effectiveness of an army is tied to the honesty of its leadership. When the facts on the ground are ignored in favor of political convenience, the result is an inevitable breakdown in the higher direction of war.